Tell me, how's this partnership going to work?
Well, we have a great partnership, and it's great news for our mutual customers. American Express card members love their membership rewards programs, and we've been innovating and working hard to bring our rewards program to life where customers go. And in this case, in the Uber app, with the simple yet elegant integration between our two companies. We know our card members love Uber. Last year, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars ordering cars through the Uber app. So we think this is a great way to bring value, earn double membership reward points, or use your membership reward points to pay for a ride.
So it works both ways. How did the deal come together? Travis?
Ed, I think you, as far as I know, Ed, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were a big Uber customer prior to us even meeting.
It goes back to that.
I'm a big AmEx card member, too, so, I mean, it goes both ways.
And that's actually how the partnership began. I do use Uber. Travis is a loyal AmEx card member, and as soon as we met, we realized there's going to be a great way to work together.
Wow, fantastic. And, you know, this is quite a company, right? I mean, remarkable story, and congratulations to you. Big valuation number. This is a company that just keeps on growing. I mean, you think about 10 months ago, you were valued at $3.5 billion. This latest round of financing put you at $17 billion. How'd that happen?
Well, look, I think the reason this kind of thing happens is because though the funding news makes headlines, you know, myself, my team included, we're focused on moving the business forward. And this partnership, I mean, I told that earlier today, I'm not going to be happy until 100% of Uber's users are using Amex to get around their cities. And of course,
you could just block all other cars.
Right?
I'm sure Ed would like that.
I mean, of course, if 100% of Amex card members were Uber riders, I'd be pretty pumped as well.
You've said that revenues are doubling every 6 months.
That's right.
Is that still on pace?
It's still on pace, more than doubling, actually more than doubling. And in fact, this year our revenues are growing faster than they were for the first half of last year.
Wow, so it's catching on. Has it made you profitable yet?
Basically, we sort of have like an Amazonian approach to this, which is we are still in a hyper growth phase. And so, you know, remember, we're 4 years old. We're now in 130 cities, almost 40 countries. We're rolling in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We're in Stockholm, Shanghai, Kuala Lumpur, South Africa.
Which is good for you guys as well, because you have a very global footprint.
No, it certainly is. So listen, American Express is 164 years old, and Uber is 4 years old. Yet we share a lot of common values about customer service, about growth, about innovation, about bringing value to our customers. And with this program, we're doing all of the above.
Okay. I mean, so a very international expansion then that you're embarking on your part. Is that partly what you'll use this latest cash infusion for?
Well, look, I think growth matters, right? And I think, you know, whether it's, you know, expanding to be in those cities or really offering new features and services like the loyalty program that we're bringing in, Amex's loyalty program that we're bringing into the app. Amex customers are way over indexing in usage, and we want to encourage more of that. And so growth happens geographically, but it also happens in terms of engagement with the product itself.
You know, in terms of the growth of the valuation, I mean, Netflix is an interesting example. So, you know, Reed Hastings said, gosh, you know, maybe this is getting a little too euphoric because his stock price was up 260% in 10 months. Your valuation is up more than 400% in 10 months. Is there any reason to warn investors here that there might be too much enthusiasm in the market?
I think the key when it comes to enthusiasm or hype in a marketplace is you have to look at the numbers at the end of the day. And if you look at the size that Uber's at and the growth that we're seeing, in many ways it's unprecedented. And so at the end of the rainbow, there is a pot of gold, and that is just our size and our growth that sort of meets the numbers that people are putting out there for our stock.
So in other words, you think that you'll have the growth, you'll have the revenue to support the kind of valuation? I mean,
I think we do. I think there is meat on this bone, if that makes any sense.
There's meat. And hey, this must have made you a billionaire. How's it feel? Does it feel good?
I haven't been counting.
Come on.
Look, I am so focused on this business. I have not sold a single share since we founded it 4 years ago. And so people ask me like, in fact, I know that Ed's going to the Stanley Cup Finals tonight, this evening, and I was going to go with him, and I'm from LA, and the LA Kings are playing, and I didn't even know, and that I used to call myself a hockey fan. So I'm kind of focused on the business right now and growing it, and having a lot of fun building a great team.
Yeah.
And
no,
it's been exciting.
And it's exciting for you guys to be part of it. Let me ask you something, though. And I'm an AmEx user myself, and I hoard all of my points, and I tend to use my points most often for big-ticket items, like plane tickets. This is a little different because this is sort of a smaller expenditure. Why embark on this strategy right now? And really, is it the best use of points for people?
Well,
the smaller ticket items.
Well, what's core for our customers is for American Express to give you choice. If you want to save your points and go on a family vacation, great, that's fantastic. We have plenty of options for you. But increasingly, one thing that will differentiate American Express is you can use your points for everyday expenditures. And what better way than to get a ride into work on Uber using their app and Amex being there for you if you choose to use it. Now, if you don't want to pay with points, you can then get double points for that same ride, which then you can hoard for your next family vacation.
Yeah, the double points is great.
You have the choice now. But the whole thing about Amex is give customers choice, create value, go where they are. And as I said, our customers love using Uber.
Back to Uber for a moment. Travis, I mean, you have to fight a lot of regulatory hurdles.
Sure.
I mean, in cities across America. You've faced challenges in Paris, you've faced challenges in New York, you've faced challenges in London. How do you deal with these? I mean, what are your plans to win these regulatory hurdles?
Well, look, I think at the end of the day, customers, citizens of these cities are getting around the city much more cheaply, right? UberX in most cities is 30–40% cheaper than a taxi. Mm-hmm. How does a regulator or a city official take that away from the population? Say, you know what, cheap, inexpensive transportation that's high quality, you shouldn't have, right? So it's very difficult. And so I think with that premise, we go, okay, well, we're in 130 cities. There's only one city ever that I've pulled back any product or service.
What city was that?
Vancouver.
Really? Why in Vancouver? I
mean, like I was saying before, we're rolling in Riyadh, but we can't roll in Vancouver. And the reason why is because there's protectionist schemes, regulatory protectionism that basically keeps the taxi industry with a local monopoly.
Gee.
And they don't want consumers to have choice, and so they outlaw competition and choice.
Now, I know that Austin and Miami have banned your service, yet you're operating there. So are you operating illegally or just in an unsanctioned environment? How does that work?
We tried to get into Miami for over 2 years, but what happened was sort of similar type services started rolling out in both of those markets, and the cities sort of allowed them to operate. And when that happens, we tell the city, well, we're glad that you're embracing this kind of innovation. We want to participate as well, and then we roll out as well.
Did American Express have any hesitancy? I mean, thinking about how, all the challenges that Travis is facing in various cities?
Well,
from a regulation point of view?
No, here's what we focused on. One, our customers use Uber. And as I said, in the last year, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars ordering Uber. So that's critical. We got to know Uber a little bit, and we see this great growth story that Travis is telling you. And it's impressive. But mostly it's about us focusing on meeting a customer need, creating value, doing things in an industry-first way, integrating our value into their app where our customers are. And it's going to be surprising and delighting our customers here. Any moment now, we're releasing the app, and you'll be able to get your double points or use points for rides.
That's great. I'll be downloading it. Travis, how do you compete against some of your rivals? I mean, like Lyft, for example, or Sidecar?
Sure. Well, the way we compete first is making sure it's the highest quality service, lowest pickup times, and the least expensive ride, so the most affordable ride. So make it affordable, make it highest quality, have really quick pickup times, and you kind of win. And what happens is when you have a head start and you have a whole bunch of activity going in a particular market, the trips per hour that drivers can get, because lots of people are using it, is really high, which means that the cost per ride can be much lower because they're staying very active.
Which makes you more competitive.
And then when the price goes down, then more people come on, and then the trips per hour increases even more, and then the price can come down again.
What do you say to those who say, oh, well, the problem with the business is that there's not that significant a barrier to entry?
Well, I think there may not be a significant barrier to entry, but there are pretty large network effects in the business. Again, liquidity means that it turns into productivity. Productivity turns into lower prices, which turns into more liquidity. And that also is coverage area, too. So if a particular upstart is in sort of the core of the city, we're already covering a large area. It means that when you take a ride and you go somewhere else, you're much more likely to be able to get a ride back.
Okay.
And so the coverage area expands as well.
You've been expanding the business, things like Uber Rush. Is that something that American Express will participate in as well?
Of course. You can get your double points using Uber Rush or Uber X or Uber SUVs.
So anything that's Uber.
That's right.
The bigger he gets, the better it is for you. What else do you want to try and expand into?
Look, we're doing a lot of things with the business. We're obviously doing some experiments with logistics, and of course, all of our AmEx customers are along for that ride, so to speak. Look, the reason I'm really excited about this, even as an AmEx card member, is that my points now are in my phone, and wherever I go, my points come with me. And now that there's an Uber integration, it's on something that I use every day. We all do the big travel, the big vacations, and using points is a lot of fun. But when I can do it on an everyday thing, that makes it pretty exciting, especially when it's sort of magical where I push a button and a car appears.
Yeah. So you wrote in a recent blog post, Travis, quote, "To enable a transportation alternative in cities that makes car ownership a thing of the past, that is in fact your goal." To do exactly that, making car ownership a thing of the past. Yeah. As you confront all these regulatory hurdles, I mean, what about the car companies? I mean, you're trying to change a way of life to a certain extent.
I mean, look, when you push a button and you get a ride, I'm not sure if you're an Uber customer, but we have a bunch of Uber.
I am. In fact, I just took one yesterday.
And so you know what it's about. It was pretty good, and it was at a pretty good price. And so you get a reliable ride that's pretty inexpensive. I mean, that's progress. And if it can get lower than the cost of owning a car, that's a big deal for a lot of people. And so that's where this kind of technology and progress will go, and we'll obviously be innovating in that way. And I think it's good. I think it's good for everybody.
All this innovation out there, people are talking about driverless cars. Google's trying to put forward prototypes. What would that mean for you guys?
Look, I think again, when the price of taking an Uber goes down and goes below the cost of owning a car, well, of course, that becomes a sort of it creates a really interesting situation for getting around cities around the world. Yeah. And obviously, driverless cars are a big part of that. There are ways out, though, right? I wouldn't quite call it sci-fi, but it's going to take a long time before we get to a place where, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these cars manufactured, and they're safe, and the regulatory regimes have sort of dealt with these things in the appropriate fashion.
Let me ask you a question. This probably relates a bit to American Express, because I know if I go in and I rent a car, I get a certain amount of insurance that's provided through an American Express card. Yeah. How do you deal with the insurance aspect of all this in this business?
Well, we make sure that every ride is insured, and there's a couple different ways. We either the particular transportation provider is regulated by the city, like in New York City. They have certain insurance requirements. I think in this city it's $750,000 per instance. In other cities, we actually do the insurance. We pay for the insurance ourselves and covers all the trips, and that's $1 million per instance. So it's very, it's sort of high-end insurance, way above what the average person would get on a personal insurance policy, to make sure the driver, the rider, and the public at large is protected.
So you have some liability then in the case of an accident?
Well, we get insurance to protect on that liability, right? So we pay for the insurance, and so what happens is for every ride and every mile that's traveled, there's insurance there, so that when AmEx customers go and take a ride, they know that they're going to have sort of best-in-breed sort of commercial insurance for the trips that they take.
Okay. So when do you think you'd go in public?
Look, I think, like I said before, we're focused on the business. We're 4 years old, so we're just like a little baby when it comes to company.
You are, yeah, just 4 years old. But you've got all this money. Yeah. You've got venture capitalists that'll want to see some return on their investment at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll keep you posted, but it's nothing that we're focused on anytime soon.
Yeah, you're larger now than a lot of travel companies. I mean, I was surprised by this. You're larger than Hyatt. You're larger than Wyndham. You're larger than Expedia. You're larger than Hertz. What is the true potential for you?
I think the true potential is turning transportation, ground transportation, into a service. And if that can happen, and like you said earlier, if car ownership sort of becomes a thing of the past, and that's going to take a lot of time, but I think you then start to fulfill the potential that Uber represents.
Finally, what milestones would you like to reach, do you think are really important in the near future before you think about going public?
Oh, man. I mean, the kinds of things we think about at Uber are, can we continue our growth? Can we go to more cities? Can we continue growing the big cities that we're already in? So some of the things we look at is like, are we growing faster this year than last year, and how long can we keep that up? That's a big thing. If we can make it through this whole year and grow faster when we're 5-6 times bigger this year than we did last year, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I've got, a lot of my team is really focused on those kinds of things, but there's a lot of little things underneath to make that a reality.